So, welcome to the third episode of TableTalk with Pokerlistings. Really happy to present GingePoker. How are you doing today, Ginge?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. It's like 5 p.m. in the Philippines, so thanks for accommodating my time as well. But
Yeah,
yeah, good to be here.
sweet. Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of our audience will be familiar with you, but, you're someone who I like to kind of look at as someone who's done like both the poker dreams, quotation marks. You grinded online in the shadows, done
Yeah,
your own stuff, and then you got bored, I guess, and then thought, I'll try and make content, and then won that, GG poker sponsorship. It doesn't really get bigger than that. And then you're kind of like doing stuff now. So like, yeah, do you want to kind of give us a feeling on what you're doing the last couple of months? You've kind of been off the radar a bit, right?
yeah. So I guess kind of like thanks for the kind of intro there. It's interesting the way you looked at it because online poker in the shadows. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what it was. For me, it was just like I was quite happy just moving to Asia and just sacrificing what could have been a lucrative career doing something else just to make less money and live on a beach in Thailand, which then just happened to be a catalyst to just going further and further in poker. It's funny because I wouldn't have considered myself an online player for a while. I definitely started more live. I thought online was too hard, and then did online because I had to make it work so I could live in Asia. And then ended up going back to live when I ended up in Macau playing reasonably high stakes. And I think that kind of helped me become a bit of a hybrid between the two. 'Cause I think some people struggle to go to live and some people struggle to go online. In general, if you struggle to go online, it's because you're not good enough at poker without trying to sound too harsh. But if you can't go from online to live, it's because you're not very good at like picking up like the human side of the game, which is something that I think that is hard to teach. And then so I ended up in Macau. Then lockdown happened with COVID, etc. Ended up streaming just for something to do really because it was hard to once you play such high stakes live, it's hard to motivate yourself to go back to like 100 and 200 and L online, which are probably harder than some of the light games I was playing for significantly high stakes. That's the bit that people don't seem to realize sometimes. It's like high stakes live poker. It's like that normal distribution curve. It's like it's really soft at the bottom, it's really hard in the middle, and then it's really soft at the top. And like the games just don't run if they're not soft. And yeah, they'll run a little bit sometimes, and you need to be able to hold your own against some of these players that are hybrids or online players or whatever. You need to know what's going on. But ultimately, some of the super high stakes games, are the biggest games in the world, I probably played in home games where the chips all say no cash value, and I just played with just like absolute, basically pub poker all over again, which is a skill in itself because there's obviously these pros out there that are like, oh my god, I like playing against players that know what they're doing, so I have a bit of, I have an idea, but that's all another ridiculous thing for people to say. So started streaming. I think because I kind of sat in the shadows for a while and not really like, I've not been one of these people that kind of like follows what everyone else does. Obviously, moving to Asia and doing and all these kind of things kind of sets the precedent for that anyway. But for me, figuring out online poker was very much I'm going to figure out what I think works and I'm going to solve it for my own thought processes and whatever else. I didn't really enjoy watching training site videos too much because I would just get bored. I'd be like, all right, mate, I get it. It's a fold. Like, you don't need to tell me for 40 minutes to fold. And I think that comes across in my content because I don't waffle around things. Like, I kind of try and get to the point and be quite concise about things because I'm trying to understand it myself. So when I do understand it, I think if someone does understand something, they can just say it very simply and just be like, this is a fold because I don't think this guy bluffs. All right, next time we don't have to talk about fucking ranges and what I think this guy
Yeah.
does too. Like, I don't think the guy bluffs next hand. If you want to ask me about that, ask me about that. But in general, that's it. That's all we need to know. And that it's a fold now. All right, guys, we got that one. Okay, cool. We don't need to balance ranges or talk about all this other stuff. It's a fold. And I think that building my poker strategy from those basics has just helped me solidify my game so that when I do play in situations where other people would just be like, oh fuck, I've not solved this spot and I don't know what's going on here. I'm very like, okay, I can start with my basics and I can figure this one out, and that kind of gives me a little bit of an edge in situations where are not normal. Like random situations where especially playing live poker, we want to like put the seven deuce game on, or we want to put. I've been in live poker games where if let's say me and you're playing a pot and I go all in on the river and there's another guy in the pot who is not in the hand, you tank for ages and then fold, he can take your cards and decide if he wants to call because he's the fish in the game. Like put that in a solver, you know what I mean? Like, and those all those different things and all those different variables are just things that I feel like I deal with quite well. And you kind of have to. You can't just be like relying on this calculator all the time. I think you have to use your own brain. One of the things people say to me that I always say all the time is like, you've got to be playing poker. So then during COVID, it was very hard to motivate myself playing all those like smaller games. So it was like, okay, what's the hardest stake in the world that everyone says is difficult that runs all the time? And it was 500 Zoom. So I jumped into 500 Zoom. Not really sure how I was going to get on, to be honest. And I was kind of learning as I went. And I was happily battling in any pool. Like there was pools that like other people just wouldn't jump in. And I was like, whatever, it's content and I'm learning. It's either lose or learn, or sorry, win or learn. and that really helped me get better at poker. I was learning as I went. But I was winning, and I was winning quite well. And people were like, "Whoa, this guy doesn't do all this training side stuff, and he just kind of does. He just bets a third on every flop, and everyone tells us that's bad." And I'm like, "Guys, it's just not that bad. It's just fine. It's like the bigger things are you're gonna call a guy on the river that doesn't bluff. Those are the big things, and your fundamental strategies, yeah, they need to be in place, but it's the big things that are really important things that you guys forget when you're trying to like master these fundamental strategies." And I think that was like a breath of fresh air on some of the poker coaching content out there, and people then resonated with that. They got a bit of a following, moved it over to YouTube, and then it was like, well, there wasn't really an English-speaking guy playing like reasonably high stakes cash at a high level that was consistently doing it and doing quite well at it and explaining himself simply, not just going, well, I've got this distribution and blah 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 blah. I don't want to take the piss out of people too much, but that was just like, I think that's what people saw and people liked. So the content grew pretty fast. After that, I was seduced to go on to GGPoker. I'd never played anywhere other than the stars before. I mean, the main reason I've always played online is not for, once you've made a level of money, like playing online is not about money anymore. It's about, like, yeah, you don't want to lose, but you also, it's about staying sharp. Because if I can beat 500 Zoom for like 2-3 big blinds, which I'm pretty confident, at least at the time I was, then when I go and play 20K now live, it's like, okay, well, these guys can't be 100 Zoom. So this is like, this is fine. But the thing is, they're still probably winning a reasonable amount in that game. Because they'll be a fish in that game that's dusting at like 20 bigs. So they don't need to be that good, but it's just good to be on top of that stuff. And like, so that was kind of the motivation. That's why I did it. Ended up being sponsored by GG. It was always a weird thing for me because I was like, I'm doing content and I sort of enjoy doing it, but I've got no purpose behind it. And then the GG thing came along and there was a few complicated nuances behind that deal. So it was like, they were paying me $5,000 a month. I started off with an affiliate code, and then we're trying to get rid of affiliates, and there was this, and there was that, and they want to do content, and they want to do this content, and I'm doing these like YouTube courses to try and figure out what's better content, and they're being quite hypocritical and like, oh, we think this is good, and I'm like, I don't think that's good, and it's kind of like pulling you one way, and we want this many videos, and I'm like, I don't want to be the sellout guy that just starts, throwing out all these crypto things and all this other gambling side stuff. I'm quite, you know what I mean? Like you can go down that rabbit hole, and it's like where do you stand with it? And it's still, for me, I didn't want it to be a job, because ultimately the reason I moved to Asia and started playing poker was because freedom, and I get to do what I want when I want. So signing up to the GG thing was like, oh shit, this is a job. Like it was like, there's this thing when you're younger and you just like, you look at poker pros, like for me it was like all these Poker Stars guys with these badges, and they're just like, oh yeah, I want to be Team UK or whatever it is. And then I'm like, finally got the opportunity to do it, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm quite happy just doing my own thing and like making content whenever I want and all that kind of stuff. And without trying to sound too ridiculous, the $5,000 a month wasn't going to change my life. So it's like, well, why am I doing this? But at least I'm getting rewarded for this amount that I am doing. And they were pretty chill with me for a while, and they're great. I've got really good friends at GGPoker. But then eventually tried to make the content better. I was like, right, well, if I want to have a go at this, what do we do? The live vlog thing seemed to be the way to go. That seems to be super popular right now. So I did this whole like, I'm going to make $1 million in America challenge. End up going to America. Oh my God, the politics to get into the big games there was just ridiculous. Started dusting straight away. Wasn't as sharp as I used to be playing live poker. Vlogging was a complete, like, respect to all the vloggers out there that do it. It's way harder than I thought it was. Not just like the whole intricacies of filming at the table and getting all the permissions or forgiveness or whatever you want to call it, but then it's like remembering the fucking hands. Like if I play a week of poker and you ask me about a hand I played on Monday and I haven't quite filmed the flop properly, I'm like, well, I got to fuck. Like, and to be honest, I could probably get the hand history about right, but then it's like, the color of the situation is just gone, because I'm just like, you want to explain like, oh, this guy's been raising like loads, so that's why I think his hand's a call and not a 4-bet or whatever. Once the color's gone, that kind of takes away from the whole process. And then when you're playing high stakes poker, I'm like, well, I'm losing a high stakes poker because I'm like playing bad or whatever I'm doing, and then it's like, focusing on this, it's just not going to happen when I'm trying to focus on this high stakes stuff. So that kind of went out the window, which was really unfortunate, because by the time I actually released a vlog, it was probably one of my best performing videos. It's like shit, like I did like 3 vlogs and I could do like 90. So it's just like, oh man, like that's what I should have been doing. And so I came back from after the trip. I got lucky. I swapped with the guy who won the main, so I lost 280 in cash games, which wasn't too bad breaking it down by numbers, because it was like most of that I lost like 100K playing a 2, 400, 800 game. So like if you just run bad in that game, that's going to be most of your trip. Ran bad in all the stream games I played / played bad. A little bit of advertising, but like I realized pretty quickly after that they basically say to you like, oh, if you advertise and you play bad, maybe you get invited back. But it's bullshit, man. They just want you to donate to the stream, and then you're not getting back, man. Like especially someone like me who's got a stream and got like a bit of a following for being quote unquote not bad at poker. then it's just like you're drawing dead. If they want you, they want you. It's not about how well or bad or dusty you play on stream. Maybe a little bit, but like not completely. But it was good for content at least, and it was good to make network and make friends with people over there. So it'd be good. If I ever want to go back to the lodge, I feel like I've got an open invite there because they're pretty happy that I came and supported some of their earlier streams. So that's pretty cool. Like they got invited to their high stakes cash game thing that they did a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, the flights are just so hard for Major that it's just like, man, like going all the way to Texas to play 100 or 200 and then getting like 16 hours of poker over a few weeks. That's like more than the flight, so less than the flight. So it's just like, is that really worth it? You know, because I'm going to be potentially staked for that game. And then like, even if I am winning, it's like, okay, cool. So I'm my EV here is like, say $60,000 for the week and I get 30,000. And again, without trying to sound ridiculously arrogant, is that worth it? I don't know. But then I got lucky at the end of the Vegas trip, so I'm down 280 in results, get the 250 rebate from Espen, so I'm down 30K on the trip. And then they didn't get invited to a sick private game, which I just had to go to media dart for. They were like, look, you can't do any social media, but you can come and play in this sick private game. And I was just like, okay, I had to do like 10 days quarantine. No, I had to do 10 days quarantine to get there. This is how sick this private game was, right? Because the guy just couldn't play in casino, so he's like, I need to play. And had to sell like 35% of my action to the host. It was 200, 400. It was crazy. We're talking like card swaps. And I'm not saying that the guy we're playing with was that bad. He's obviously pretty bad. You play nonstop every day with him as a professional, but like it wasn't like anyone could walk into this game and win. I'd say like I would say 75% of professionals would still win in this game, but you know, there's still 25% that wouldn't, and there's still 25% that just wouldn't adjust to the things that were going on. There were some very tight players there. There were some very weak players there. There were some very strong players there. And I ran good, and I think I played some of the best poker I ever played because I was like, right, this is my opportunity, this is my spot. I'm like grinding every day, go to the gym every day, well, not every day, every other day, and playing poker. So it was like poker one day, gym next day, because I couldn't play every day because there was too many players. So I was like, right, poker, gym, poker, gym, poker, gym, rest, focus on sleep, focus on performing, taking some nootropics before I play the game, and just ran, and I think played the best poker I've ever played. I was like, this spot was made for me, and I ended up winning like $2.9 million over that period, but obviously giving away a lot to the host and giving away a lot to being staked. Got burnt on FTX, so all those numbers dwindled down. I cleared like 950 to myself, and I was obviously doing reasonably okay before that anyway. And then it's like, so that, like I said, like being invited to Texas to go and make EV of like 30,000 just isn't as appealing anymore. So I'm kind of at the point where I'm having like a semi-midlife crisis, as crazy as it sounds. It's just like, well, I've got money now, and poker is fun, but it's not like the most interesting thing in the world now. Like, I don't necessarily want to go to Vegas and grind 3 months and just give my life to that again, because I definitely didn't. I definitely neglected like health and all that kind of stuff while I was there. Like, I was just eating fast food and just playing all hours and whatever else. So it's not as appealing to go do that. But at the same time, poker is still a big part of who I am and what I do. I've got some other projects going on at the moment, but at the same time, it's like, well, where do I want to live? What do I want to do? What do I want to be? Do I want to go back to Macau? Macau's reopened. Do I want to go and grind the high stakes in Macau? Do I want to go and, and that's kind of where I'm at with things right now. So that's why I was social media dark. And it sounds really ridiculous to sort of talk to people and be like, I've made a lot of money, so now I'm bored. Because, like, that's the dream for a lot of people. But, like, honestly, achieving your dream sometimes might be more of a curse than something else. Because then you're like, you lose your purpose a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm at with things at the moment. So you kind of caught me at this pivotal moment where I'm like, yeah, I don't know what to do. I'm just traveling around.
I thought you'd be a great. I thought you'd be a great guest. I mean, there's so much to unpack in what you just said. I'm trying to like. I'll have a question. Next time I'm gonna like make notes. I think while someone talks, that was like amazing.
Sorry, I just kind of ranted for a while.
It was great. Yeah, like I mean, me and my friend's grinding. He's like 100 like online, 100 an hour, and he's playing live a lot. And we were talking recently about like what is the poker dream, what is our end goal, because it's constantly changing, right? Like as you said, I think maybe if you go back 10 years ago, it was cut yourself a nice online profit, live in Asia where the overheads aren't so much,
right?
And just see your days out. You know, put some in savings, put some in like some investments, and just see your life out. But then I think it's just got too hard. You know, I mean, there's a lot of. I was going to ask you this question, but what do you put to the online poker in terms of legitimacy and, you know, because there's so much collusion and stuff going on these days. It's really hard to not like be aware of that.
So I was on PokerMaster, which is one of these original apps that and I've played on most sites. But I've stuck mainly to the legitimate ones. The trade-off is always going to be the more legitimate the site is, the harder the game's going to be, because it's going to be like where all the regs play. You're not like not many regs are going to chance some of these other sites because they've been stung or whatever it is. But then you've got the trade-off between like, well, that's going to make the other game softer, but you are going to get stung. So with Pokermaster, I think I won like 30k pretty fast, and then dusted 100k just as fast. And it was just like, all right, great. That's and it was clearly collusion, rigged, whatever you want to call it. But there's no way that money's coming back, and I'm just buried for whatever amount. I really think live is like the only real way to make serious money in this game now. I have friends that grind the apps, and like there's loads of apps out there now, like PP Poker, GG Club, WPT, all that kind of stuff. And there's loads of clubs. And I really think that it's more about what they do is like they find a good club, they network very well, they get in the club, they make a bit of money. They almost know that they're gonna get stung at some point. It's like part of the game. It's like, right, I might make 20k this month in this club, but next month I'm gonna get stung for 10k. So it's just like, and they're always looking for new ones, and it's like there's a bit of like there's a lot going on to that, and there is a way of dealing with that. And obviously you just have to deal with the stress of like, this guy's going to run away, this guy's going to disappear, the club's going to die, the whale's going to die. As soon as the whale dies, then the club dies. All this, whatever's going on is just going to happen. And that's just, you can deal with that if you want to and jump into that world. Maybe that's not right for you, maybe it's not, but you probably will make more money than playing on other sites. But then for me, it's always been about a balance between improving and money. So it's like you've got to kind of do both, and you never want to cap yourself. So what I mean by that is, let's say that you're a 100 Zoom grinder, and you're like, right, I make $3,000 a month now playing 100 Zoom. That's it. That's me done. I'm going to go live in Asia. I think that caps you. And I think the problem with that is the game will catch up to you, and you'll get there. If you're living like a normal person where you're making $3,000 a month, and let's say you're spending 1,500, 2,000, even though it's Asia, you're still going to like live reasonably comfortably, and you might have a little bit of savings. So that's because you have a downswing, and maybe you got like 10k float or whatever you want to call it. After a few months of losing, you're going to be like, oh, I'm screwed now. So you still kind of want to always be pushing to get better, and then fall back on that if you have to. Like for example, let's say I go broke tomorrow. I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to play 100 Zoom. Like, I'm confident that I'll be able to make reasonable money at that. But I feel like you've always got to keep pushing. And the best way to push, in my opinion, is to play live. And because you can play exponentially bigger stakes live. Now, that might be awkward to like network and get a staking deal to go to live. Let's say you're winning at 100 Zoom. If you're winning at stars 100 Zoom right now, at anything above 3 big blinds, you're clearly a decent player, and you probably should be trading 200 Zoom. But if you're winning at 100 Zoom, you probably don't need that much to go and beat 2-5 live. You probably don't need that much to beat 5-10 live. You might need a few lessons in how to play live poker, but realistically, your hourly has just gone from, say, $50 an hour, probably $30 to $50 an hour playing 100 Zoom, to going to play live where you're making $50 an hour, where you probably should be playing the higher stakes, and now you're making $100 an hour. So maybe you want to go to Vegas, LA, Australia, Cambodia, whatever it is to play live, and then make some real money so you can stack up like 20k in the bank. And now when you go back online, it's like, all right, now I want to play 200 Zoom, I want to push myself. And you've always got to be doing that. And eventually, if you run good, you're like, okay, cool, I'm being 500 Zoom, I'm going to go to whatever it is that has high stakes poker, maybe Macau. That's what it was for me at the time, at least. That's kind of changed because of COVID. Macau completely closed, so I'm not sure if that's going to come back. But at least in Macau, what we had was we had 30-60 games running, or 40-80 in USD a lot of the year. Every now and again, a 150-300 game will pop off. But if you become established at the 40-80 game, which I'm pretty sure they have in LA, like the occasional 100-200 game that pops off, you can shot take that. So you just want to be there, you want to be around these shot takes, and that's how you get to the next level. And then eventually, the other way of doing it then is you can then integrate horizontally. Like maybe you then find the 100 Zoom guys that you want to take to the 10-20 games, and then you can make money that way. Obviously, a lot of trust involved in that kind of stuff. But like there's ways of doing it. Like you can improve and grind yourself up. You can have other people come up as well. That's one of the best things in my career is like I've always helped other people try to get to my level so that they can help me get to the next level, because collaboration is way better than just trying to do it on your own sometimes. Yeah. And through that's basically helped me build my network, because then eventually you've got one guy that used to stake me in poker playing Birmingham back in the day that then is now just coming second in Triton high rollers, but knows that I'm a good poker player, knows that I'm good at cash games. All of a sudden he gets an invite to this 100-200 Triton game. He's like, oh, Ginge, you want to play? This is, I vouch for him and I vouch for him and this and all that kind of stuff. It's just full circle networking. And that's part of the game. The part of the game I think is really lacking is the networking side. It's just a big deal. It just really is, especially for live poker. And as much as you want to slice it and you don't want that to be part of the game because you want it to be this pure mano-y-mano, I beat that guy, ultimately that's just not going to work, because people, you forget that this game, for the people that are losing in this game, it's about entertainment and about liking you and about playing. And like, it's not about these robots that sit there with their headphones in. Like, you don't want to just play against a robot. I want to play against GingePoker, who splashed off on stream against Doug the other day. I want to see if I've got a chance against him. I want to play Phil Ivey because he's the best player in the world, and I want to say that I beat him. And you need that. That's to really grow in this game, and people just kind of get annoyed by that. But it's just, but once you kind of see that for what it is, it's like, okay, like, is me making a YouTube channel going to be better or worse for me getting into private games? Well, I wasn't going to get into them anyway, so it can only be better. So it's like, that's kind of, I'm not that, like, that's not the Machiavellian reason to like do it, but it's like, it does add to that. So it's and, like the more, right? Yeah, I just don't think it was like a zero-sum game. I was never going to get into private games anyway. Who's this random British guy turning up to play poker that no one's heard of? Like, Euros just get a bad rep in America because there's so many robot Euros to go over there and grind the 10-20s. And there's so much ego in 10-20 and 5-10. It's crazy. It's so funny. You get to the top of poker, not that I'm saying I'm at the top, but like you go and play 100, 200, the ego level just drops dramatically. It's just like, we know we're all there because we've made it there. No one's there because they're bad at poker. Even if they're not as good as you at like 3-betting and you're better at them at c-betting, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. He's slightly better at this, I'm slightly better at that. We're all here to take this fucking fish's money. Like, it sounds predatory, but it's kind of true. So you have this mutual respect for each other. Oh, you made it to 100, 200, nice. 10-20, it's like, oh, this reg is so bad. I can't believe this guy, and I'm gonna make so much money if there's not a fish here. And it's just like, bro, like, this fish is not losing as much as you think he is. This fish is the only reason you're making money. Like, you might think you're making money because you want to pot off this reg because he played a hand bad. You think that you're not playing 10, 20, 50 hands bad yourself. Like, it's like, no one's perfect. And like, yeah, it's because this whale just came and dunked off 10k to the whole table that you've even got a win rate in this game. No, it's not. I'm better than everyone. Like, no, you're not. You're not better than everyone to beat the reg. It's just not happening. But that's just my, I don't know. I went on a few different tangents again there. But
no, I mean, I think it's all gold though. I think it's completely true. Like, when I was talking to my friend again, we were like, this concept that we have of just like grind online, I think, like I said, it's an outdated version of the poker dream. I think what you said is right. I think it's live poker is the way. Probably not even in the UK. I don't know how much live cash you play in the UK, but it's pretty dry.
Well, I know people that do grind the London-y kind of scene, and it is disappointing that London hasn't got such a high stakes scene, because you'd think it'd be the spot for it, but unfortunately private games and politics just take high stakes really fast. That's kind of why a lot of players ended up in Macau back in the day, because it was like, Macau is the best system for anti-politics. It's just, there are 9 seats at the table, there are 2 seats reserved for VIPs. VIPs are judged basically by the players or the staff, and the staff know what's going on, and that's great because the VIP can play whenever he wants, and whoever's at the table gets to play. If you're at the table and the VIP sits down, good for you, well done. If you're not at the table, there's no fucking chance of getting a seat. So you have to sit there and play and battle, or whatever you want to do, through the night if you have to sometimes. Honestly, I play 40-hour sessions just to play 6 hours with one guy. Like, but this guy's going to lose 100k in that 6 hours he plays. And like, my EV of that, as long as I'm breaking even in the other games, and to be honest, I think I was slightly winning. If I'm breaking even for those 30 hours to play 10 hours with one guy that's going to lose 100,000 to 7 of us, like, I've made 20 grand. I'm not at the time. I'm not rich enough to not want 20 grand. Like, would you trade 40 hours of your time right now for 20 grand? I'm sure most of us would, and I definitely would at the time. So it's like, that kind of stuff is like, is kind of better, because then it's like, yeah, it's uncomfortable for the regs, but why should it be comfortable? Especially in a spot where you could still be a robot in that spot, because it's like the VIP has to play with whoever's there, and but then if it just becomes like, oh, we'll play upstairs and I'm friends with you, but like, that's way more predatory. But unfortunately, it's hard to stop that, and there's so much big incentives because the money becomes so big that's just what happens, and it's unfortunate, but I don't like that part of the game, but it is what it is.
Absolutely. I mean, you've answered a lot of my questions that I had like lined up. You kind of, in different ways, you just knocked them off. That's good. But yeah, no, just kind of going back to what you said, like, you said you're kind of like a poker life crisis, I guess, or whatever, which I think does happen to a lot of like, like Doug, he had the same kind of thing a couple of years ago. He was like out of it. I think Joey Ingram's had the same. It feels like you've kind of done, and I don't want to like just laud you, but you've done all 3. You kind of grind online, got bored of that. So I wouldn't say solved it, but you had a mission. Good enough, right? And then same with the content. You kind of, because I found you during COVID when you started doing the Zoom streams, because no one was doing that, and so I thought this is awesome. And not just that, but like just from my own kind of experience, I was kind of losing at 50 online. I've only learnt poker probably 2 years before that. I was kind of losing at maybe like 2 or 3 big blinds per 100 in Zoom, and then watch your stuff, and just the way you broke it down in heuristics, not going on about like solvers and not going on about you need to have this kind of range, it'll be this balance in this spot. You know, just breaking it down in very simple, edible ways. I was just like, all right, okay, I'll add that to my game. You know, I don't need to call this spot. I don't need to be balanced when he's overbet jamming this river, when all the draws I got there and I've got this exact blocker. Like, it just doesn't matter. And I went from that to winning. Well, I play static tables, which I think you mentioned in I think you shouldn't play Zoom before you can like comfortably play static. So I played like 4 tables, won at that for like 200k hands, and then now I'm playing Zoom now and winning. But I put a lot of that down to you, and I was playing with your brother during the UK IPT last year, and I told him that I said say thanks to your brother because it actually was a massive bell curve for me in terms of like getting over that hump of like close, like break even but losing. So yeah, thank you for that. Thanks for this.
No, it's sick to hear, man. And I always like to tell this story of a guy that tried to join my academy. He was a run it once coach. And he was trying to join my academy, and he was already kind of playing 500 Zoom. And like I said, like I was playing 500 Zoom, and I'm not like, if someone said, "Do you beat 500 Zoom?" I'd be like, "I think so," but I would never be like confident enough to say 100% yes. I'd be pretty confident that if I game selected and pool selected and like was pretty sharp, that I would be winning and I could easily show a winning example. But definitely some of the pools are going to be way too hard, and like there's just too much going on. But this guy was trying to join. I'm like, well, you're already kind of at 500 Zoom. I don't know what I can do to help you. And he told me, because he was a Run It Once pro, he was recording videos for Run It Once, and he said that
I think I know who you mean, by the way. British guy, right?
And, UK. Yeah, British guy. And I never like to say his name because I don't want to like give away. But I really like this guy, and I respected what he said, because I was just like, I could just tell you to not. I just need to give you one piece of information, and then you're done. That's all you need. And he just goes, yeah. When I film some of the Run It Once videos, there's spots where I know I want to fold. When if I wasn't filming a video, I would fold. But when I'm filming a video, I don't want all the comments to flame me for folding this kind of hand, and I'm just like, that is what's wrong with poker. That is literally what's wrong with poker. And you know what's going to happen is that just breeds this circle, which I'm fine with, I guess, because I'm taking advantage of the people that are not breaking out of that circle. Is like, he's going to show these other people that he doesn't fold because he wants to be balanced. They're going to watch it and go, okay, yeah, I don't fold because I want to be balanced. And like, it's all these guys that can't beat 10 and 25 and L that are telling you off for not being balanced. Like, guys, like, you're being judged by people that don't understand enough about the game. Like, it's all over poker. It's just like, you get so many troll accounts on Discords and Twitters and all this kind of stuff. And like, I was thinking about this. How do you, like, people always talk about who's the best poker player, and it's like, the best poker player, like, without trying to sound ridiculous, the only metric that you can really measure it on is who's got the most money. And like, it's just like, okay, well, Dan Bilzerian's not a good example of a good poker player, but he's the guy that's networked into all these big games and has happened to be just good enough to beat these guys. If what he says is true, then and that's a different argument altogether. But like, if Dan Bilzerian has managed to make 50 million playing poker hypothetically in these high stakes business games because of his image, then clearly image is the thing that you should be cultivating to get into these high stakes games. So exactly, yeah. Is skill that important? I mean, it's yes and no. Like, yeah. It's obviously some of us are capped and we've all got whatever's going on that's going to stop us getting to do whatever we want. But like, there's more to just skill in this game. And I think that being judged by guys that can't even beat 25 and now is just hilarious, like, across the whole industry.
Yeah, I mean, when I was just watching this stream, like, this was like kind of peak, I think, like when you're doing like the hour-long videos and stuff, you'd like watch people say, oh, why is he folding there? He's got 2 pair, and you just, you know, your turns improve your hand and whatever. It's just like, yeah, but the guy's over at jammed, he's like never bluffing. My hand can't improve. You know, it's like people are like, just, I think like they have this concept of before they can even run, they're trying to like drive a car, you know, they're trying to like go in the solvers. Yeah. I mean, I have these arguments with my friend in our Discord all the time. Like, we're always talking about, he's like, every spot he's struggling in, he wants to run through solver. I'm like, maybe just look at it fundamentally. I think it's a good place to start first before you start going through the solver. Like, don't get me wrong, I think maybe, you know, when I'm playing on Zoom now and I know I'm playing against a reg, I'm tagged, and we're in a weird spot and he's done something interesting, I'm like, well, I want to look at what the solver says to do. It doesn't mean I'm going to do it, but I want to see what the computer says. But, you know, 100% agree with you there. I think we're playing this game to win money, right? And whoever's won the money. Even if Dan Bilzerian can't win 50 Zoom, but he's made 100 million. He's upset. Is he up at night thinking he can't beat Zoom? Probably not.
No, he can't beat 50 now. I got more money than all of you nerds.
Yeah. Probably literally more money than all the pool. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think this is a really cool way to like translate to this next topic. Kind of, it's like the end topics here. But you're talking about coaching. What was your thoughts around this whole Berkey, Solve for Why scammer claims? I think that was quite interesting.
It's obviously difficult because I'm a coach myself, and I post my results. So for me to start coaching, I mean, I started coaching people a long time ago, and it was start off just friends, right? I'm at 100. You're. It's not like even like I'm charging for coaching. It's just me like, oh, do this. This works for me, and do this, and do this, and try this, and oh, you've tried that. Cool. What do you? It's like collaborative at the same time. And
Right.
then I've always coached my brother a little bit, but we've always clashed because I think the reason we've always clashed is because I've been coaching him since when you start playing poker and you think you know what you're doing, but you haven't got a clue, but you're telling people like you know what you're doing. I've obviously had that relationship with him for so long at the start that he just like. You don't know anything. I'm like, yeah, but that was what it used to be like. I agree, but now I know things now. I promise. And but so it's very hard because obviously we have that sibling rivalry for me to like help him. So he's gone down the tournament route, and I'm like, come on, Brandon, come play cash games, and then so I obviously then helped other people and then helped them get to the levels they're at, which has helped me, like networking wise. So I'd say like a lot of the people I've coached are probably unknown in the poker world. Because it's funny because people talk about the best player. And I'm like, guys, you don't know who the best players are. You've never heard of them. Like they're poker players, predominantly British, to be honest. Predominantly British poker players that have just escaped the online world into the high stakes live world that are making chunks. And the reason they don't go to America is because maybe some of them do, is because it's too political, and the reason they get into these Asian private games is because they happen to be there, and they don't pay tax on all their winnings, and like, it's just like, Andy Mosley's like probably the most famous out of all of them that people have heard of, but like all the people underneath Andy Mosley, the Andy Mosley staked, like these guys are just like multi-millionaire poker players that no one's heard of, and like, so like when they talk about the best poker player, like, no, it's all the hybrid players you don't even know. And like when I start talking and coaching, like, Ginge, will you shut up? I'm like, sorry guys. So these people exist that people don't even know about. And some of those guys I've helped coach, and like there's times where I've helped coach them because I've been better than them, and then times where they've helped coach me or get me into games because like maybe there was one guy I used to coach that ended up like staking me in Macau, and he was like, I'm better than him, but he's got way more money than me now because he got to Macau before me, and he just grinded for a year, kept it quiet, and then he's like, right, I've got loads of money now, and he's having his poker life crisis. He's like, I keep grinding, but I think I'll actually make more money if I bring someone that I trust like you, Ginge, to come play, and then I'm coaching two guys as well. He knows that my vouch for a player is good, so it's like ended up like three of us going to Macau, and then that was my first year in Macau basically, where I made like £1 million playing poker. I was like sick, and then like my net worth just like instantly just like became like, oh, okay, cool. So now I can play. I wouldn't. That was staked. So with all, taking out makeup from those fucking app games and then whatever, everything else and swaps and big games and whatever, I probably got like 300-400k at the end of this. But I'm like, whoa, like there's me grinding my poker life in Thailand with 30k in the bank. Now it's like 400k in the bank. You're like, that's like those steps you take, and then But I've had coaches along the way, and I've had some really good coaches along the way, and not all of them had the best results or have had continuous best results. I still think you could learn things from people like Charlie Carroll, even if he can't, I'm not saying he can't, even if he can't be foreign right now. Does it matter? Like this guy's clearly the way he thinks is going to add something to you. There's going to be some nuggets of information that I would apply to my own heuristics that Charlie could definitely help me with. And it's kind of like, I'm lucky though, because I've thought about the game, I think, very deeply. I don't think that I would take bad advice. Whereas some people at the bottom of poker trees, if you're telling them to balance and all this other stuff, and you can definitely send them on the wrong trajectory. Like a lot of the best coaches are teaching you how to think, not teaching you what to do. But the problem is all these people that want coaching want to know what to do, not what to think. And it's like, it's very difficult to balance that. And so then when I started doing Fire and Zoom, I didn't necessarily do that to want to coach people. That was kind of like, people wanted coaching, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll do that. And like, because realistically, like, I think the coaching model is completely broken. Before we even go into who's a scammer, it's like, how do you even build this coaching model? Because it's like, let's say that I could coach you right now for 3 hours. And that's, to be honest, that's probably as much as I would need with a competent person to give them everything I kind of knew. Because like I said, I don't teach in do this. I teach in think like this. And there's obviously, after those 3 hours, you're going to be in spots where you're like, oh, I didn't think like that before, and I'm going to see this. And it's going to take you a while to actually implement all that into your game, because there's going to be new pathways of thinking in different spots. And you're going to have to check your working and all that kind of stuff. But me giving you those first 3 hours is going to set you off on that pathway. What do I charge you for that? Do I charge you $1,000 an hour? Do I charge you $500 an hour? Like, is that worth it for me to give you like my life's work in 3 hours? Because that's the thing. Like, the deeper I think about it, the less information and the less time I need to give you, because I can give it to you so concisely. Like, what do I charge for that? Like, if you didn't turn that $3,000 an hour into $100,000 in a year, do you have to give me half of that? Like, what's the fair way to do this? Like, what if I say, okay, we'll do coaching for profits, and then for a year I'm taking half your winnings. Are you gonna want to give me? Is that worth it for you? You're the one that's putting in the work. Like, are you playing high enough stakes to make that worth it for me? Are you going to be bankrolled to play those stakes that's going to make it worth it for me? If you can't afford, there's so many permutations and complications to what is the right business model for coaching. I ended up doing the academy style, which I think was a reasonable way of doing it, because it was like, right, we take on X amount of people, and then they've got full dedication for X amount of time, and we improve the services. One of the best things I like to do with people is stat reviews, sweat reviews, all this kind of stuff. I think it really, really helps them. But then the thing is, the more I help them, the more I was like, okay, cool, they've all got the same question, make a video, done. And then all of a sudden, they run out of questions. It's like, okay, cool, I've covered everything. Like, what do you want from me? Then it's a video series. And it's like, am I still blasting out 500 Zoom samples? No. Do I think I could beat 500 Zoom? Yes. Are people going to question that? Yes. So it's like, am I a bad person for then charging for coaching for that? I don't know. I don't think so, because I think my content's really valuable, and all the feedback I've got from my content and my coaching is good. So, and that's it's a free market, so they're going to buy it or not. I've got hours and hours of footage on YouTube displaying my ability, if that's what you want to call it. You can watch that, and like I like to think I come across pretty authentic with my journey. It's like, I've made a lot of money playing this game. I've coached a lot of people. These are the things that I think. If you want to know how I think, here's the course. Like, I personally, I'm willing to tell a lot of it for free anyway. It's just that one of the things, I actually then released my course for free on YouTube. I don't know if you saw that. At least the first draft of the video, of the original video, it's been improved and added content since then. So it's not like the people that bought it are losing out. But the thing is with releasing something for free is that people don't value it. It's crazy, because it's like, if I charge someone for that particular video, as you've seen it, if I charge someone $500 for that video, I don't think they'd be disappointed with that. But like, I give it out for free, and people are like, okay, I'll come back and watch this, and like, cool, it's got a lot of views, and I've got a lot of reviews actually from people that have gone read through the whole thing. But it's like, it's weird, because like, someone always says to me, like, if I how many pens have you lost in your life? And you probably hundreds, right? But you spend $1,000 on a pen, would you ever lose it? No, you treasure that pen.
You'd value it, like,
yeah, exactly. So coaching kind of has that element inside it as well. And then it's like, okay, so are these people frauds? Well, it's difficult to say, because I don't want to throw mud at people here, but it's like,
of course, yeah.
Clearly Charlie was winning at some of the highest stakes in the world, and clearly has value to this game, whether it's how to think about the game. He's not telling you that he's beating the game right now, even though he probably could if he wanted to. It's like, he has that ability. He's proven that over time. Like, winning at the highest stakes consistently and making a lot of money at this game is clear proof. So for me, Charlie can't be a fraud. Like, whether you agree with how his approach to the game or not, is just that approach clearly works for him. If you want to learn about it, go learn about that. Stop seeing it as something that's like, he's going to take you to like level 1000, because he's not. He's going to tell you how he got to level 100. Doesn't mean that you have to get to level 100 that way, or agree with how he gets to level 100 that way. That's all by the by. Doug's methods, the problem I have with, say, the upswing style, and this is going to be bad, is like, most people that do upswing, I don't see the winners coming out of the other side of it. You know what I mean? It seems like the mass market, like, here's a chart, and maybe I don't want to speak too much out of turn because I don't know enough about it, but like, it's like, when I see a 20-minute video of like, why default this, I'm like, because the solver does this and this and that. But it goes back to the whole thing that coaches have this problem that they can't speak their own minds because they're worried that they're going to get flamed by too many people. And I feel like upswing is going to fall into that category, because like, there are so many micro stakes players in that are going to influence what a coach actually wants to say. Like for example, I remember they signed Gazzy B, and I think Gazzy B is a great guy. Clearly made loads of money poker. Clearly has a lot of value as a coach. Yeah. But when he goes, I've studied loads for this module, guys, and I'm really happy about it, and I'm great. I'm like, okay, you studied for the module, so basically are you a coach, or are you doing the studying for people and then showing them the studying? Because like, is that what a coach does now? Does like, shows you loads of spots on a solver and then talks you through what they think? Is that coaching? If so, yes, great. But like you said, like, we approach things differently. So it's like, it's difficult, it's awkward. I don't think that's a scam. I think that you get what you pay for. And I think that when you're trying to coach a mass amount of people, it's very difficult to go inside the nuances and heuristics. And it's like, I think some of their courses are clearly good. Like the Nick Petrangelo one, I've heard so many good things about that. So I think clearly there's value there. I don't think that's a scam at all. Do I think that's the best way to progress in poker? Maybe at the very start, but I think it's a little bit too beginnery. But that's my opinion, and it's very hard for them not to be that when it's a mass market product.
Exactly, yeah.
And but then you take it to like the next level, which is like, trying to not to throw mud at people, but let's say like the Berkey side, and it's like, well, at least Doug has like winning players. Like, what did those guys win? And yeah, okay, Berkey's like got 4 million in cashes, and like I don't know enough about him, and like I've seen him play on streams, and like what does Landon win? Like Landon talks the talk, but like does he walk the walk? And like and that's the biggest thing that we're scared of in coaching is like people that talk the talk but don't walk the walk. And it's like, do any of these guys play high stakes? Do any of these guys win, or do they just say big words? And that's like, and that for me is like the biggest turnoff for that side of thing, because they have audiences, they're clearly smart people, but are they blinded by their own sort of, I don't know. Like I always find that if you say anything about Berkey online, and I like Berkey, I really do. I've met him and I've done Poker Live. I think he's got really I think he's got really good integrity and I really like him. But if you say anything negative about Berkey online, you get every single minion on top of you. It's like, and that for me is disingenuous, because it's like, even if like I really like Doug, but if someone says something good or bad about Doug, I don't go, oh no, Doug's the best, and then I really like Doug, and it's like I read it for what it is, and go, oh yeah, he probably could have done that better. Like no one's perfect, but when you talk anything bad about Berkey, it's like no, it's fucking Saint Berkey, like, and I'm like, oh come on guys, like, yeah, you kind of got like you got to be able to like see your own flaws, like and accept them. Like no one's perfect. If anything, I'd believe it more if you go, yeah, you know what, we're not really that good at the moment, or we don't really have any high stakes players, but that's fine because of or whatever reason it is, or we don't like doing this and we like to do this and we focus more on this stuff, and like we focus more on helping the 2-5 and the 5-10 guys because that's what we're experts at. I'm like, that'd be great, that'd be cool. That's what you are. But then it's like, are you trying to say that you're the, you know, I don't know. They kind of put themselves on this pedestal that I don't think they deserve. And that's why I think it comes across as scammy, because I think a lot of the people in poker see it for what it is. And then they're trying to protect the people at the bottom of poker that don't see that. So it's like, is it a scam? No. You're going to get some value out of that. Should you stay there forever? No. But you shouldn't stay at any coaching platform forever. Because like, if you're staying at the coaching platform forever, another thing that one of my old business partners said to me is that for my course, I ran out of things to say. I was like, all right, this is how you play poker, guys. And he goes, the problem with the coaching and the education model is that you're incentivized to come up with a new strategy every week. I mean, maybe not to that degree, but it's like, let's say I sold you a chainsaw to go and cut down a tree. And I taught you how to use this chainsaw. In my head, I'm like, all right, you can go cut down this forest now. Up to you. Good luck. Like, but if I sold you, but the problem is that my business model's done after I sold you that chainsaw, unless I got to sell you a new one, which in this context is education, so I don't. But if I sell you a new shiny chainsaw every week and tell you it's a little bit better, and I got a fucking nitro pump on this fucking chainsaw, and this one's slightly better, and this one's slightly better, and this one's slightly better, then I'm gonna go, oh yeah, fuck, I can't win because of this fucking, I gotta get this new chainsaw. That's the unfortunate pothole of poker education. It's like you kind of have to have that to recurring revenue model and keep making new content. It's like, guys, this is how you play poker. If you can't do that, sorry, you need to watch this video again. Unlucky. Or there's something wrong. Like, do the stat review again. Like, your stats, are your stats perfect? If your stats perfect, you still can't win, then I'll jump in. But that's never happened to me. So it's like, talk to me when that's happened. Like, you don't need a new chainsaw until you've mastered the first chainsaw. And that's the problem. And you see that in a lot of places, I think, in the poker coaching industry. So I hope I didn't throw too much mud on too many people there, but that's those are my thoughts.
I don't think there's any mud thrown. I think, I agree with what you said exactly. I don't think Berkey's a scammer, and I think honestly I was kind of below the belt from what to say that, because I think it's very damaging. It can.
I think Doug and his platform as well. He's got a and it wouldn't be as bad if he didn't have his own coaching site, I think. But when there's clearly some reverse incentives there that aren't, I mean, there are obvious to anyone with a brain, but like, it's not. I don't think it's right to do that when you what's it called, a conflict of interest is clearly there.
Yeah, competition.
Yeah, and I'm sure he was very careful with the way he did it in terms of like making Nick Airball say most of that stuff. But I guess leading on to the Nick Airball stuff, I've been following that on Twitter today, and like they're basically talking about Nick wants to have someone in the room, and Berkey's trying to get out of playing, and obviously, okay, so this is kind of again like Saint Berkey. The whole camp is like there's no like middle ground here. There's no like even like that's the thing. You never see a middle ground in the Berkey camp. It's always like Team Berkey's right, and I find that disingenuous a lot. Whether they believe that or not, I don't know. But for me, it's like, well, if you think that your guy is always fucking perfect, then you're wrong. Whether he's perfect in the spot or not, but I just don't believe it anymore because of how perfect he always seems in every single spot. And I really like Berkey. I just reiterate that. But so Mental Have Matt posted today about all the reasons why having someone in the room would be bad, because they can make notes and they can go and check all the reviews and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, okay, ban phones. Like your sort of your point of not having the person in the room is so that they can't do all this thing. Well, ban the phone then. So like, so what's the problem now? Oh yeah, that'd be a ridiculous thing to do. I'm like, well, so what's your point? Like, is your point to like stop the data or to stop the person? Like, your argument against the person is because of the data. I just give you a solution to stop the data. And I'm like, so that just proves to me that they're not really seeing what they're arguing. If they're arguing about the data point, then solve the data point. Don't solve the person point. Like, there's no, there's all sorts of things you can do to like mitigate these things. So why don't you come up with a solution to him having a person in the room? Like, say, okay, you can have a person wherever you want, but I want them sitting away from the table so they can't see the action. And you can go and take your break and chat to him every 5 minutes if you want. That's another reasonable compromise. Or just to say like, oh, this is ridiculous. He has a person in the room. I don't disagree with that. I can see the argument for them not wanting the person in the room, but like not coming up with a compromise when there's clearly plenty of compromises is the part that I don't like, and that makes me feel like all these interjections of him having excuses to not play are coming to fruition, rather than him say, okay, I don't want the person in the room for this reason, so I've suggested this compromise. You know what I mean? Now, the argument for him not needing to come up with compromises is that Nick is the one challenging him. So if Nick's challenging him, then Nick should bow down to all the things that he wants. But to an outside professional poker player's point of view, it's like Nick is clearly the dog in this spot. Like, and Nick is basically in complete EV theory world just saying, hey, I want to give you money. Hey, I want to give you money. So if Nick is knocking on the door saying, hey, I want to give you money, and you're now and you are able to stipulate all the conditions which you have, and then there's conditions which are a little bit whatever. If you're not the one coming up with the compromises, it kind of looks like you're not wanting to take this free money. Now, obviously, in the real world, it's variance and all this kind of stuff. But in theory world, it's like the guy's trying to give you free money and you're not accepting it. So the more that you don't accept, and that's what it looks like, and especially when you're not coming out with compromises for the things that could clearly have compromises, it looks like you're trying to get away from it. And then all it looks like then is if you're trying to stray away from this, either A, you're not confident enough to play this guy, or B, which is fine. Then say that, like, no problem. Like, I don't want to play a silly high variance heads up match against guy, like, because everyone's got a chance of winning, right? Even if you're a big favorite, it's 60-40. So like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone thinks Berkey's going to win, and I'm sure he will. But like, to be honest, heads up poker is more like chess than it is like full ring. So it's like, everyone could, like, Nick is not a stupid guy. He's not like a drunk retard that just showed up in the casino that can't see his cards. He's gonna be able to use his brain and like bluff sometimes when and make it look like he's bluffing sometimes when he's not. He's not, you know, that's like the fundamentals of people that are decent at live poker anyway. So like, I think Berkey's probably gonna have an edge, probably, but not as big as people think. And Berkey knows that, and that's fine. But why don't say that then? Why not say like, this is just way too high variance? It's not backing out and looking like a fraud if you back out and say, I don't want to play this guy heads up, even though people think you're a favorite. It's just like, it's $1 million fucking dollars. Like, it's a lot of money. Like, would I want to play this guy for $1 million? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I have enough money to play this guy for $1 million and be confident that we're going to win? No. So I have to say no. So like, it's right, okay. You know what I mean? So it's like, $1 million is way too much money for me to risk. Especially when the stipulations are not saying action as well. Like, $1 million, losing $1 million would change my life right now. Like, and put it back into, you know, into where it was before. So I'm like, which is fine, but not why. But $2 million isn't going to change my life. But losing $1 million would. So it's like.
So the stipulation in their game is they're not selling any action. They're using their.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that one's still there, but that was supposed to be there. Yeah.
Okay, but is it not a bit telling? I mean, I'm pretty sure like Berkey. I mean, I don't know his role. Maybe he can't. Maybe it is close for him. But it's such a good spot, right? Like, do you not think that is, as a poker player, as a poker pro, I know it's heads up and I know it's, you know, lots of variance, but the way he's acted throughout, do you not think it's a bit red flag going off a bit?
Yeah, I agree. I think that Doug's trying to make out like Berkey's trying to pull out. Berkey's trying to make out like he's not trying to pull out in terms of like throwing up with these stipulations. But I feel like as much as I think that like it should be on Berkey's terms, then any terms where they can't agree with that are reasonable, they have Galfon involved for that I feel like the onus is on Berkey a little bit to come up with a compromise. For me, it just feels like a get out of jail free. And if you are confident enough to take the game, you should be like, fuck, I need to make this happen. You know what I mean? Like Doug offering them $100K to do it on stream. First of all, great. That's sick that Doug would do that. That's really great for the poker community and getting to watch this and all this kind of stuff. And Berkey's excuse is like he doesn't want to like, you know, give this guy any airtime and stuff. It's like, bro, like, how much is your ego worth? How much is your pride worth here? Like, we're all poker players. We're here to make money. If someone, you know, it's just, I don't know. Like, I get that the guy has really high integrity and everything else, and doesn't want to give this guy a platform and all that kind of stuff. But the more is thrown at Berkey to say like just do this, the more we're like, hey Berkey, come on, like just.
It feels like a lost opportunity, even for him. I mean, one of my ideas. I mean, I think he did speak about it on his podcast recently, but I don't see why, for his own brand, stream it at the Soulfly Academy. You played there, right? At the Poker Out Loud. I'm sure they could get a middle party in there to organise everything so it's kosher. Yep. Have two dealers, exactly what they've done in the lodge. You do it on the Soulfly channel. You're going to get an infinite amount of subscribers and views from that. It's free content. I just don't get it, man. I mean, I'm a Berkey fan like you. I do like him. I think he's a great player to watch because he just goes crazy sometimes. I think it's fun to watch. I think he's, I think if he positioned himself from like what you said, I'm going to help 2-5 and 5-10 players, and then I'll also help you navigate my way to private games like he has done. Clearly, he's been in some great private games, but he seems to be like the Poker Out Loud stuff. This is what I'm going to try and talk to you. You're on one of the rants I just went, but the Poker Out Loud stuff. I think it's so. I mean, I know he charges a really big amount for these students to come in, but one of my favorite YouTube videos in poker in the last years was yours when the King Jack hand against Tallow.
Oh yeah. When I was thinking about calling down with King High.
Because he sat there with like Jack 10 off. He opens like under the gun or early or whatever, and he sat there.
And then check raises and.
Yeah, check raises on like a low board, which you should never be doing or whatever, or like that low pair board. And he sat there talking about it for like a couple of minutes, breaking down all this stuff, and then you're just like, doesn't make sense. I'm calling. Doesn't make sense. I'm jamming. And I think that's doesn't help his brand because they all do it. I don't know how much Poker Out Loud you've watched, but when I've watched the free stuff, it's like they're sitting there. He's got ace 9 off under the gun. And he's sitting there debating it and stuff. It's just pretty standard spot. Ace deuce off under the gun. Pretty king deuce off. Whatever.
I think I saw some of the clips where it was he's got ace 8 off versus MP. And he's like, yeah, I can randomize and mix this into some frequencies. And I'm just like, are you doing this to advertise? And are you advertising to your own educational platform? Or what's the crack here with some of this, some of these lines and some of these plays? And then I remember they analyzed one of the hands as well. And I can't remember which one it was, but it's one of the ones I did a video on. And they're like, oh yeah, we did too. Because they have this analyze it after the fact content as well. And they start saying things like, so it's not about the length of his range, it's about the width of his range. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, if he just sat there and was just talking about, all right, general pool in, Vegas 2-5 are not going to have this. So, if you talk to him in that sense, I mean, that'd be great because obviously he's got more experience than most people in that pool. So does Soto and all these other guys and probably Landon as well. But like you said, they're talking about solvers and width of ranges and depth of ranges.
God, come on, man. Sometimes it's not about the depth and the dexterity of the finger. All right. I'm
going to link that video in the description just so people can watch so they know what we're talking about. I thought that was a hilarious video. All right, so just to kind of cap the Berkey airball stuff, you think Berkey's a big favourite? You got Berkey to win. If you have to pick.
No, I don't think he's that big of a favourite as people are making out. To be honest, I feel like Heads-Up is going to have a lot of variance. I think that Airball is clearly a smart guy, and anyone who's smart can kind of pick things up playing Heads-Up. And reduce the variance a lot and put Berkey in a bit of a blender because I feel like Berkey's setting up this thing to have a lot of high pressure on him winning. So, I think it was 60-40 Berkey, but the more I thought about it, I think 55-45. I think it's pretty tight. I think heads-up matches in general are going to be pretty tight, but what do I know?
Very interesting. That's. I mean, I agree with that. I think the way Airball plays, he just seems to he loves to chips in the pot, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. I guess the last topic, probably to cap off with, you obviously tried to get into Hustler when you went to America, and it seems, that just seems crazy to get in. It seems so difficult to try and get on that stream. Can you give us your experience of what happened when you went there?
Yeah, so I messaged Hustler beforehand, and one of the original messages I sent was I'm making a YouTube channel, and I want to cut up some of the hands and do some reviews, and they're like, yeah, go for it, please do. This was before Hustler became. It was just when they were branching off from Live with the Bike, so they were very happy with me doing that. I'd probably have to recheck permissions. I was going to keep doing that, but that wasn't something I ended up going down. I tried to do the Poker After Dark stuff, but then GG, it was really weird with GG and Poker Go. They gave me permission, and took it away, and had to block it in America and all sorts of nonsense. And then so when I got to Vegas, I was like, hey, can I play? And they're like, yeah, maybe we can get you in a game in the week. And I was like, maybe that's because that's sometimes a show your face thing, and then if you do actually show up, then we'll have a conversation about you playing on a Friday and stuff like that. But then I ended up playing in a few games. I played in a private game in Vegas, and there's a guy called Beans there, Darren Atterbury, And
Yeah.
he was like, yeah, I can get you, just like one of these big talkers. He's like, yeah, I can get you in the game. Like, I'll call Ryan now. He's a good friend of mine. Yeah, I can get you in any game. And calls him, loudspeakers in. And he goes, I've got this guy here, because Americans like to call me Gingy. I don't know why. I got Gingy here, and he wants to play. And Ryan just goes, no, I don't want Gingy. He's a super pro. And just like, literally, I heard every word. And I was like, oh, great. So I'm never getting on the Friday game. So there's just like way less incentive to go to the other games. But the thing is, everyone in Vegas kind of makes out like it was all Garrett, and like the impression that Garrett gave on the recent Doug Polk podcast was that it was Ryan using Garrett as a front to say, "Oh no, Garrett doesn't want you." He was like, "Sorry, but like Ryan's actually the guy," and it seems like their technique to set up games is just like recreationals plus women. That's their technique to get views, and like at the end of the day, they're a business. They get it. They're bringing on like Mariano and Rampage now a bit more, and they've got their own viewership. So I'm sure they'd let Brad and Andrew play if they wanted to play. And obviously all the big dogs like Helmuth, Negreanu, Doug Polk can always play because they bring numbers. So you just have to accept that. The main problem I have with Hustler is that now is like I kind of want to not like them because there are some dodgy things. Like you just hear too much. There's not no smoke without fire, as they say. Like the amount of people that call Nick Vitucci an ex-scammer. He actually called me the other day because I actually posted about his. I posted a little bit about him being a fake cop and a real estate scammer, and he called me. He's like, "Oh, I ran this business, and 1% of people complained, and everyone else was fine. So would you mind taking down that tweet?" And in fairness to him, like he's right. I don't know any information about it. It's just like I just keep seeing it, so that I posted it. So I was like, fair enough, I'll take that down. And then obviously I had bad feelings towards Ryan because he wouldn't let me play, and then obviously the Robbie thing, and then they still do the whole cards in real time, which is like gonna Garrett talks about stream integrity and all this kind of stuff, and it's very hard to get streams with integrity. And I felt a bit sorry for Garrett, not in like a "oh woe is me" way, but in like he only gets to play on streams, and now he has to worry about stream integrity. Like no one's inviting him to a private game, like no one's like, "Oh, I want to play with Garrett." Maybe a little bit because of his celebrityness, but not really. So he's kind of screwed now. He's like, "Yeah, I'll play a little bit." Like obviously, Live with the Bike will have him because Live with the Bike kind of want anyone just to grow the stream now, and yeah, so it's like it's an interesting spot. Like, because I kind of want to root against Hustler because of as a professional who doesn't get to play, and the cheating scandal and some of the characters that are involved. But at the same time, like it's a business and they're running it the best way they can to make the most money they can, and I respect that. So it's like, it just doesn't suit me. That's the only reason I'm annoyed at it.
Yeah, I mean that's very fair. I think that's like pretty good points. I mean, I spoke with Ryan recently about doing an interview for the $1 million game, which we did on Pokerlistings. So I think he's a great guy, and I mean, when you look at what he did in Live at the Bike, which is like, I mean, as a poker fan myself, I'm not really interested in just the money amount, so that's kind of boring to me. Like, I don't really watch Hustler that much nowadays because if I find it all the same. I mean, I do like root for Mariano. I think what he's doing is great. His like run hot, but other than that, I don't care about watching these multimillionaires just play bingo.
Yeah, me too. I don't like it. But as I said, like we have to sort of take a step back sometimes and be like, well, just because I don't want to watch it doesn't mean that other people they had the views. So it's like, and it's like it's difficult for us to argue against that because like I don't watch it. Like I never watch streams really, to be honest, because I'm just like, how can you sit there watch 11 hours of poker? Like I only just about enjoy I used to love watching the World Series, but they were like the edited, highlighted hands of the day, and like they told the story very well. So I wouldn't mind that episodically. I think they should do that, to be honest. I think they should make the streams into episodes rather than like do the highlight episodes afterwards and make it a bit more like a Friday at Hustler. Yeah, and then and I'd probably watch that because I'd be interested in who gets the better of who and all these rivalries that they can sort of build up. But yeah, it's their business and they're running it clearly very well. So who am I to judge it? I can't get in.
100%. I mean, for me though, I think like the peak poker content like in that era was. I don't even remember when they did like the Doug Polk week back on Live at the Bike. They got pros. They filled the table with pros and a couple of Rex. They got like Danmer, UK like live Crusher, and they got like one of his friends to play. I think they got Jungle Man in that game. It was a great game. Then it was like the action was going, and I think Garrett played in that game. It's very confusing to me when people say like Garrett's just bomb hunting, which is what they're kind of accusing him of doing. Because I've seen him play against a lot of pros before. He played against Art a lot back on Live at the Bike when he was coming up. Art's still not played since the Jack forehand. I think he's played like one time. He's actually come out and said he's being blackballed from playing in that game. So,
yep. Well, he's also playing Garrett for blackballing him, and then and Garrett said on the Doug Polk thing yesterday or whatever day it was, saying that like I'm not playing anymore, and Art's still not playing, so that proves it wasn't me.
Yeah, it's a good point. You can't argue with that too much. But yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting to see how that transpires. I think I think Garrett seems like he wants to play again. Yeah, I guess that'll be interesting. But it's good. It's really good points. I thought it was like a bit more different. I mean, when you wanted to play, I don't think Ryan understands that even though you're obviously going to play very well, you're still going to drive action when you're on the stream. You're going to. I mean, you got a.
I think so. Yeah,
I
think that's what people don't realize about me is that I'm not one of these robots. So they just assume that I'm an online player and that. But I'm not. Especially when I'm comfortable. I was a bit nervous at some of the first few streams I played. But once I'm comfortable, I'm quite happy, like splashing around and talking, giving action, and trying to get on the next stream. You know what I mean? Like,
I watched you on the lodge. Like, you're driving action on the lodge.
Yeah, well, I tried.
Yeah, you do. I mean, they can't see you a tie, that's for sure, on the streams. Yeah. But I really appreciate your time, man. I think it's like almost exactly an hour. So yeah, massively appreciated. Probably just to end off, what's your? I know you're at like a midlife crisis. You're at the fork in the roads in poker. Is it back to the Zoom streets? Are you going to play the World Series this year?
So I tried to do a few live stops recently in Asia. Some of these poker tours like WPT, APT. WPT Cambodia was really fun actually. Really enjoyed it. Filmed some vlogs for that, and then I did APT just after that. Kind of flirting with Natural 8 because they're like partners with GG to get, if I was going to get a sponsorship again, do it through them.
Right.
WPT was really fun, and I would definitely play that again if I was going to go on a poker trip in Asia, because it was in a city and it was great because you just go downstairs, play poker, bust a tournament, go out and enjoy yourself. It was great. Whereas the APT was on a resort in an island in Vietnam, and it was just like so boring. It was just like if you don't want to play, and I'm not a poker player anymore, so when I'm there, at midday, like grinding this tournament for 10 hours because this, oh my god, it's got a good structure. Can't really vlog because the boring hands at the start no one cares about. And then it's just like, okay, I lost a flip after the late reg finished, and like there's nothing to do because we're on a fucking resort. There's nowhere to be. So I was like, not. And then one thing Jay Nandez always told me, he was like, if you're gonna like grow your brand and your content and your business, whatever you want to do, grow it in something you enjoy doing. And then I just was there like, I don't enjoy this. I'm not doing this because if I built up a following of playing live vlogs in Asia and tournaments, I'm gonna have to keep doing it, and I don't like it. So that kind of put me off doing that. And then I was like, so what do I want to do? And I just like being able to be anywhere in the world. That's something that really appeals to me. So streaming 500 Zoom, I can just do that. So that is something that like might pull me back in, is streaming 500 Zoom again. Like maybe just living on an island somewhere in fucking Thailand or the Philippines and just being like, right, where are my dogs? Where's my wife? And where's my gym? And then that's it. I'm done. But I might get bored doing that too. So who knows?
It feels like I think you're gonna have something lined up very shortly, and excited for you, man. No World Series this year. No Vegas again.
I'm on the fence. I might get the FOMO, but I don't want to go there to grind cash because it's too hard. It's too hard to get into 10, 20 games because the lists are so big. It's impossible to get into 100 or 200 game because they fill it up with so many amateurs that they don't, and then all the pros just play through the night. So it's just like it's impossible, and the flight's really long. So if I did go, I'd be going probably more for tournaments, which I'm not really that bothered about. So
yeah, you don't want to lose a flip after 4 hours, and then
I'm more likely to go after the World Series and try and grind some of the streams than I am to go and during the World Series.
Right, awesome. Well, let us know because I'm going to go for Vegas, my first World Series this year.
Well, good luck.
A couple of weeks probably. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Where are you going to stay?
Not sure yet. I've got one friend. I think he's staying at the Mirage or somewhere, or the Luxor. Sorry. Yeah, one of them. Yep. But I'm going to bunk with them for a couple of weeks and then probably find somewhere. But it's going to be like a lot of like part-time work and then playing. So I'm going to be like up all hours.
What are you going to play?
But I'm going to mainly grind cash, to be honest. I mean, I'll probably play like a couple of tournaments, like a couple of 600.
What stakes?
2-5. Yeah, just like to stay at that.
Probably like the win. Probably the best for you.
The win, right? Yeah, nice. I've heard people say that's good. Yeah. Did you play the area much when you went?
Yeah, but I don't like the area. It's a bit dark and it's a bit. It's fine though. If that's convenient for you walk wise, then go to the area. But I think the win is probably the best. The win is my most comfortable card room and also gets probably pretty good at the weekends.
Okay.
But like at the Bellagio's always got 5-10, but like during the World Series the list is just insane. But just get one of those apps like Bravo or Poker Atlas and just check what games are, what the lists are, and just grind what's convenient for you. 2-5 is going to be pretty reasonable all over the strip. So.
Nice one, awesome. Really appreciate that. Tell you what, like if you're still free during this heads up challenge, we can jump on again 30 minutes, maybe do like a review or something.
Sounds
It'd be
good.
really
Yeah.
cool to get your thoughts. Yeah, nice one, man. All right.
All right. Well, if it
Cheers,
happens.
Ginge. Thanks for coming on. Yeah,
No
if it
problem.
happens,
Thanks
that's a
for
really
having
good point. Take it easy, mate. See you
All
later. Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye.